Hey, welcome to this week's edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Judah, hanging out with Vincent Charles, Afshin Banab, and introducing Jessica Pod to the TNCSS fold. Welcome aboard, Jesse. We're going to get to know a little bit about you as the show progresses. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started talking about what we enjoy talking about the best and the most, and that is sports inside of the DMV. All right, as you know, the Washington Redskins name has been a bone of contention for everyone from PETA to POTUS to political pundits, talk show hosts, journalists, and fans alike. And so we all can agree to one thing sitting at this table, that the name Redskins is viciously offensive no matter what ethnic group that you belong to. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in regards to the letter that Dan Snyder put out for the fans. In addition, we're going to talk also about the Hell to the Redskins song. It didn't start out as nice and fuzzy, but we're going to address that. So Dan Snyder put out a letter. The first letter, of course, was kind of intense and terse to fans. The second one was kind of like, I hope you understand. I want you to basically believe that it's the tradition, the 81-year tradition of the Washington Redskins that I'm talking about, as opposed to the name. But truly, Afshin, Mr. Snyder can't have one without the other.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. I'm going to go back to what you said at the opening. It is a vicious, offensive name, and it should be changed. I don't even think that this should even be a national discussion, but it is up for national debate. Dan Snyder wants to keep it for now, and I think he wants to keep it for economic reasons. Right now, to pacify the fans. Later, he will change the name, probably sooner rather than later, but it should have been done a long time ago. And, you know, you mentioned POTUS. He never really came out and said one way or the other. He said, I would consider changing the name. PETA said the same thing, but it should be changed. No doubt about it in my mind.
That's right. Jesse?
I think it should be changed as well. There's a lot of things to it that, with our tradition and such, if he's interested in keeping it, well, then there's lots of other ways you can show tradition.
I agree with you. For example, he can take a page from the late owner, Abe Pollin of the Washington Wizards and the Capitals, where Mr. Pollin actually didn't like the name of the Bullets. And so he changed that. He turned it into a great community and PR thing where he invited fans to, and changed the name of the Wizards to the Wizards. Yeah. Vincent?
I agree with everyone here that the name should be changed, and I think because it keeps reappearing and it keeps coming up, this subject, that sooner or later Dan Snyder, he's eventually going to come around. I think he knows in the back of his mind that he should change the name.
And actually, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm quite sure you wanted to add on to
Abe
Pollin, or?
Yes, both points.
Okay.
Abe Pollin took the high road.
Yes, he
did. He didn't wait for people to criticize him. Mm-hmm. Dan Snyder should have done that. He could have taken the high road, and not only could he have taken the high road 2, 3, 4 months ago, 4 or 5 years ago even, he could have said, you know what, maybe the Atlanta Braves should follow suit, maybe the Kansas City Chiefs should follow suit, and put the pressure on a lot of other organizations in the country to follow suit with changing names that are derogatory. It is an offensive word, and it shouldn't be used. I don't care about the tradition. I know about the tradition. I grew up with a lot of those athletes when I was a kid, but it is offensive.
Well, here's the thing about it, Afshin and guys. You can still have the tradition, but you can change the name. The tradition will always be there. The tradition, and I think Mr. Snyder is ill-guided on this, it's not based on the name of the Redskins. It's the tradition of the team itself that will always hold true.
Yeah, that will hold true. I mean, you're talking about a franchise and the great franchise that it is, with some of the great Hall of Famers that it has, and some of the great coaches that it has had, and some of the great owners that it's had. Sans George Preston Marshall, of course, but there is tradition there, and you can still change the name and keep it.
That's right, and we're going to let you have the last word on that. Now we're going to actually move to our list of names for the Washington Redskins. I'm going to start this out first, and I gave this a lot of thought. I cheated a little bit because one of the names I used is of an old football team. I think arena football, the Washington the Washington Federals, Washington Justice, and the Washington Prospects.
Oh, the Prospects, that's a good one.
Yeah,
I like that one. I actually had the Justice in the back of my mind for a while. I like it just because it has no S, so it's a singular type name. I don't know what you'd use as his logo. Maybe a Supreme Court or a gavel. Scales.
Scales. With a football in one. And, I don't know.
If Chris was here, I would say the Washington Metro. Use a bus token or something. but I like the Justice. I like the Federals a lot. I thought maybe something like the Washington Warriors, if you wanted to keep that whole that aspect of the tradition going. I think a Warrior doesn't have to relate to one group or another. You could keep it there and maybe call them something like the Washington Warriors.
All right, let's get Vincent to get in on this.
This has taken a lot of thought, and I think it's going to take even more thought. But I've thought changing the name to the Washington Tribe, like you say, a warrior type of name. Other names that I thought of were the Washington Recon. It sort of has a military thing, like Marines. They have a recon division. They're fighters. And this town is full of lawyers, the Washington Lawyers.
All right, who needs a lawyer? I don't know. Jesse.
Well, I asked my kids because they seem to be very, very into this
Hey, I like that
subject. They seem to know. The kids know. They have their opinions too. And I got the gold skins. I got the X skins. Not sure how that's going to work out, but they were very, very vocal in it. They're happy, and I think it's better if we try to include everyone in it, because then it'll be easier to change that name.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree with Jesse. I think that you rally around the fans. I think eventually Mr. Snyder will change it. I do agree that it's an economic thing. It's tied into the sale of jerseys or whatever type of contractual agreements that he has with the NFL and outside vendors in regards to the Washington Redskins name.
Yeah. Yeah, some different words throughout the years, right?
Yeah.
If you can change the song, then you can change the name.
That's right.
And there were some vicious words in there. I've seen the original score sheet by Barney Breeskin. There are some original words in there that were pretty vicious towards the natives of this country.
That's right. And do you remember those words? We can talk
Yeah,
about
there
that a
were.
little bit.
I don't want to use them all, but there were like the second or third line you had said. What hail to the Redskins, hail victory. Braves on the warpath. There was like something about scalp 'em and doing that sort of thing and using certain weapons. So
Yeah, as a matter of fact,
Right.
the one that was used from 1962 to the 80s, the fourth verse, scalp 'em, swamp 'em, you know.
yeah, that's right. So you can change that song. You certainly can change the rest.
All right, Jesse,
I agree with that. I really do.
Vincent.
And they needed to change that song. And this is going to be an opportunity for somebody who's musically inclined to make a new fight song when they do change the name.
That's a good
Yeah.
point.
Yep.
It changed the colors of the uniforms, obviously, and change the name and go along and coincide with this would be a new song, something that's kind of fan friendly, you know, that's easy and to sing. You know, I mean, I like the Redskins song, but we can use something that an overhaul, so to speak.
Something more modern, right?
Yeah, can't we?
That's no
Yeah,
problem.
you know that is a historic song, but you know the football team, you know they always seem to be, they follow everyone else. It takes them a while because they were the last team to have an African American player on their roster, and actually they passed up on Jim Brown. I mean they had, I think in the song, going back to the song, Kevin, they had Old Dixie, if I'm not mistaken,
right.
at the end of one of those versions, and then they changed it to Old DC.
And the one that was used for, it had Old Dixie in it. They actually put that in programs.
Right.
And basically on game day, the whole purpose of that would be to promote not necessarily the South, although I think the connotations are there that was the promotion of the South, but the owner of the Redskins wanted to actually promote that this was the NFL's, or at the time, the first South team. You know.
Yeah, it was the team most furthest south, and that was George Preston Marshall, the owner, and he loved being the team in the South. I mean, he really controlled the whole region, all the way down from, you know, the D.C. area through the Carolinas, Georgia, all the way to Texas before
That's
Dallas
right.
Cowboys came about in
And
1960.
the key thing that I have to add about this, at that particular time, he didn't want any blacks on his team, you know, so to speak. Vincent.
And getting back to the song was purchased by a man named Clint Murchison, who wanted to add a team to the league, another Southern team, and Marshall didn't want him in, but once he bought the rights to the song, then that sort of forced Marshall, in order to buy back the song, he had to let the Cowboys boys in, and there you are.
And we're going to let you have the last word on that, Vincent. We want to remind everyone that you're watching the Nation's Capital Sports Show here at AIM via Comcast 69 and Fios 38. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Afshin Banat, Vincent Charles, and of course, Jesse Pye, or Jessica Pye. All right, so let's continue our conversation, talking about sports, and we're going to talk about APU, All Players United. Now, this started with players from Georgia Tech and Georgia who wrote APU on their wrist, on the wrist tape, and it's an acronym, obviously, for All Players United. and it's a protest against the NCAA's treatment of athletes. And one of the things that they wanted to do about this is basically better studies in terms of concussion, and they wanted to demonstrate unity among college athletes and fans in favor of NCAA reform. Afshin?
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I think that, a lot of these things, we were talking about the social issue with the name of the football team, they start at a grassroots level. And this, you can't get more grassroots than the college students, whether they're athletes or non-athletes, doing something like this. And I fully support what they're doing. And it's not just concussions. I think they also would like a stipend, possibly because from what I heard in a survey or in a report that took place recently, every football athlete, they average about $450,000 to that university when they get on the football field or the basketball court. That's a tremendous amount of money every Saturday and Sunday for college athletes that they give to the university. And the university doesn't give them anything back, though they do have scholarships. I do understand that.
Right. So that's a different topic for another time, because we did actually touch on that during our last show in terms of college athletes receiving stipends. So that's not the direction. And I know you're not trying to take that direction, but that's good that you mentioned that, Vincent.
I think it's good for the players, and I think it'll bring to the table some of these things that the players need and the changes that they want. I think that overall, the NCAA, they need to change their attitude towards how they're treating the players. When you can't even buy a player a meal, that doesn't make sense.
No, well, not at all.
I think eventually, as we discussed in previous podcasts and right here at AIM, a change will be coming. As to how soon that's going to be, we have no idea. Jesse?
I think it's a great thing that they're doing. I always like to see when you look at an organization that's been around for so long that needs changes, that the ones that are being affected are the ones that are going to stand up and talk about it.
That's right. And I'm going to read this quote here. And obviously, as anything that comes out, collegiate or in the world of sports, you always have the comment of the governing party. And this time, this one comes out at the behest of the NCAA. Quote, as a higher education association, the NCAA supports open and civil debate regarding all aspects of college athletics, says NCAA Director of Public and Media Relations Stacey Osborne in her statement. Quote, student athletes across all 23 sports provide an important voice in discussion as NCAA members offer academic athletic opportunities to help the more than 450,000 student athletes achieve their full potential, unquote.
I don't believe her. if she is truthful, and if Mark Emmert, the president of the NCAA, is truthful about it, then have a national conversation on it.
Yeah, well, we will hope that a national conversation would occur, but don't hold your breath on that, young man. Vincent.
That's what it's leading to, national conversation. It's going to come.
Yeah, as to when, I don't know. Bring out your crystal balls, Jesse.
Yeah.
I think that they're doing a good media public thing and making it seem that they're open to discussion.
Yeah, don't they do that? They always do the
They
save
always do.
face type of thing. Well, I'm going to put my spin on this. And, obviously, that's right. You figure you got to come out with a spin or no spin at all, because if you don't come out with a spin on this, then folks are going to look negatively upon the NCAA, and it's not as if they had their share of problems to begin with, okay? So, I don't know.
They've got a ton of things to worry about.
Yeah,
you're right, Kevin.
And so we hope that they improve upon that. All right, this is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out with Afshin Bernard, Vincent Charles, and Jessica Pye. Coming up next, the TNCSS Game of the Week, Wake Forest versus Yorktown. And that was a good game.
Wakefield.
Yeah, it's at Wakefield.
That's right.
That's
It was a pretty good game for the first half.
And then after that, it just all went downhill, so to speak.
It did, unfortunately.
But we're going to spend a little time talking to Afshin about that.
All right.
This is the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. I'm Kevin Jeter, hanging out here at AIM Studios with Afshin Bernard, Vincent Charles, and Jessica Pye. And so before we continue our conversation about sports, we're going to actually learn a little bit about who is Jessie Pye. Now, I do know this from working with you. She's a very capable and aspiring broadcaster.
Thank you, Kevin. Yep. No. Let's see. I'm 31. I great mom of two, I think. I should hope so. And I do love being in broadcasting, so thank you for giving me the chance to come on.
That's right. Well, actually, you're a shoe-in, so you make you are a rose among us thorns here. That sounded kind of corny, didn't it? But nonetheless,
That's all right.
I figured I was practicing that all day. I was like, well, how can I lead into this? But welcome aboard, and of
Thank
course,
you.
you're going to be with us and joining us on our shows as well as our podcast here, right here at AIM. And nice to have you along.
Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Absolutely.
So let's
Welcome.
continue our conversation
All right.
about the TNCSS High School Football Game of the Week. Wakefield versus Yorktown. It was over before it begun, 44-13, Afshin.
It sure was another Arlington County matchup. That's what we love covering here in Arlington, especially as towards the end of the season. Washington Lee is included in all that, but Yorktown, they put a whooping on Wakefield, but Wakefield played with a lot of heart. It was the first time that I had really seen that in a while, because the head coach of Wakefield is close friends and was the assistant for many years under Bruce Hanson at Yorktown. And Bruce Hanson's won many district titles, and he's been at Yorktown for 25 years or more now. And it was good to see them match up, but Yorktown was way too much for Wakefield. Unfortunately for the Yorktown Patriots, a big thing happened. Mike Jeter. Mike Jeter's assistant coach. But MJ Stewart, who is one of the best running backs in this region and probably along the East Coast, he got hurt with a serious leg injury. I'm not sure exactly what it was. We didn't get an update on it. He did have 2 long touchdown runs, a punt return and a run from scrimmage. So hopefully he'll be okay, because Yorktown really depends on that swift running back.
Yeah, MJ is something else, Vincent.
Yes, great running back. And Yorktown, they showed a lot of balance in that game. Not only were they getting yards running, but they were getting yards passing. And then you mentioned the punt return, special teams. So they're a well-balanced outfit.
They are, and that's the staple of a Bruce Hanson team. Always well-balanced. He always prepares his players for games no matter who they play. He's a really good coach. And I'm surprised he's never moved up to the next level. I don't think he ever wants to, but I've always been surprised that he's never has. But that's a staple of his kind of game planning and what he does during the game as far as adjustments are concerned.
I love his teams, Afshin. They're very well disciplined. Jesse.
I have a question,
Sure,
Sheen. I was wondering, how good is Washington Lee this year? Is it possible that the General will dethrone those high-flying Yorktown Patriots?
I think it's highly possible, Jesse. The Washington Lee Generals are probably the only team over the past 2 or 3 years that has given Yorktown a struggle. They actually ended Yorktown's 28-year winning streak against Washington Lee in a playoff game 2 years ago, which turned Washington Lee into a fanatical kind of school as far as school spirit is concerned. Josh Shapiro is their coach, and he seems to have Bruce Hanson's number, so to speak. Not completely, but he seems to give him a run for his money coaching-wise. I like when they coach each other. It's like a chess match.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got 2 questions for you. The first one, I just thought of this. If you're Wakefield, what are the positives that you take away from this game in spite of the score?
Well, Wayne Hogwood, one of the things that he's already seems to have done is recruit well. This past matchup was a battle of the backup quarterbacks. Will Roebuck from Yorktown was hurt. Joe McBride steps in. Riley Wilson was a backup to Roebuck last year, but he went over to Hogwood at Wakefield, so it was a battle of the backup quarterbacks. So one thing that he does is he recruits well, and the other thing I liked about this game is that he had more than 22, 23 players on the team. Wakefield never really had a lot of players that played football. Never did like Washington Lee and Yorktown and O'Connell, the other Arlington school. But he got a lot of players that seemed to come out, and they seemed to enjoy playing for the new coach, Wayne Hogwood.
That's a good key element. If players enjoy playing for the coach that coaches the team, that's always key and
Absolutely.
essential. Now, do you think that Yorktown has the National District locked up, although MJ Stewart hurt his leg in this last game?
If I'm going to sit here and pick, then I think, even though I just made the comments about Washington Lee and Josh Shapiro over there, I think Yorktown still will win the National District. They're both tied atop first place right now.
All right, Vince, we're going to let you have the last word on this.
Is there any particular school in the Northern Virginia area that might be a problem for them come playoff time?
Well, if Centerville plays them, that would be a big game in the playoffs should they meet. Centerville is the 3rd-ranked team in the area right now, and the Wildcats have one of the best teams. They are explosive on the offensive side of the ball, and they have like 2 shutdown corners on the defensive end. High school football, you're talking about cornerbacks that you call them shut down. Pretty good. Centerville's a good team.
Well, thank you very much, Afshin. Afshin, of course, as you know, is the voice of AIM Sports here, and he is one heck of a play-by-play guy.
Thanks,
and
Kevin.
color analyst, too. I really do mean that. He's been doing this for over like 15 or 20 years, and I mean, the best in high school sports, in my humble opinion.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks a lot. So let's continue our conversation in sports and talk about those Washington Redskins. But before we get to that, we want to remind everyone that you are listening, that's right, and watching the nation's capital sports show via AIM on Comcast 69 and Fios 38 and on Stitcher at Stitcher.com. If you have an email, question, comment, want to be on the show, info@tncss.net. So let's continue our conversation talking about those Redskins. The Washington Redskins, 2-4, baby. They won it, took it on the up and up against the Bears, Chicago Bears, 45-41. Roy Halou, 3 touchdowns, Afshin.
Yeah, he did. He scored 3 touchdowns. Robert Griffin III, I believe, had more than 100 yards rushing. Aldrick Robinson scored a touchdown on a long pass, though I think it was the lucky one from what I heard. I was listening to the game on the radio. They're 2-4, and you know, you got to say, what about the defense? Where was it that they gave up 41 points?
Yeah, well, at least
You know.
one thing they did win, and from what little that I saw of the game, RG3 looked pretty good, gaining his confidence back. And of course, it didn't hurt that they knocked out Jay Cutler during the first half of that game.
No, absolutely. Great point, Kevin. Cade McNown came in, and you know, they were putting a lot of pressure on him, but still, he was able to get points on the board and keep Chicago in it all the way through the final seconds of that game.
That's right, Vincent.
Yes, that's a key point, guys. A second-string quarterback was able to get 41 points off of the Redskin defense. But overall, RG3 is looking a lot better. Every game he has been improving. He's looking like his old self a lot. They're showing better balance also. In the running game, in the passing game, great to see Halou turn in that performance. It's looking up for the Redskins.
That's right. And score 1 for the Washington Redskins, Jesse, because no longer do Skin fans have to walk around with painful faces Monday morning. You know, I don't want to see that at the office cooler, but it's a good thing that they won this game.
That's true. Now, tomorrow we will have a lot of happy people in the office and on the roads going in. Maybe traffic will be better.
I hope so. Traffic and attitudes, that's a good
There you
point.
go.
And speaking of attitudes and traffic, the Skins are going to be traveling out to Denver. They're going to play who? Peyton Manning.
And the Four Horsemen.
That's right. And
Denver
the four,
Broncos.
And that's right. And who are the 4 Horsemen?
Well, there's Wes Welker and Eric Decker and Julian Thomas. Oh, my Vincent, Jesse, help me out. There's another receiver now. I've just totally gone blank. But there are 4 receivers.
I know what you're
the
talking
4
about.
Horsemen, and Peyton Manning makes them look like Hall of Famers every single game. But can I make a point about what Vincent said about
sure,
Roy
go
Halou
right
real
ahead,
quick? I like what you said about Halou, and I do think that what they could do is use him more. And I've liked him. I liked him last year as a rookie. I don't know why they don't just do that and give him the ball 10 or 12 times a game and spell Alfred Morris. I think that they should do that, and I think that they could go a long way with that offensively.
And notably missing from this game was Fred Davis. I think they made the right decision. You know?
He was missing from this game, but look who stepped up was that rookie Jordan Reed.
That's right.
So he stepped up. I think he caught a touchdown as well.
That's right. The Washington Redskins will have their hands filled as they play the Denver Broncos in Denver at Denver.
Yeah.
They're undefeated. I mean, what can you say about that, Vincent?
It's evident that Jordan Reed is the man at tight end right now. He's coming along fine for a rookie. Now, they got to put the pressure on Peyton Manning. The Denver Broncos, they can be scored upon. Look how many points that Dallas Cowboys scored on them. But they also have to play turnover football, and that was evidenced today. They had a nice turnover when Reed Dowdy tipped the pass to Arakpo, and he scored on that interception. So the Redskins need more of that. They need good special teams play. They got to convert on third downs, and they got to score in the red zone to beat the Broncos.
Yeah, well, they have to almost have almost a errorless game with the defense showing up and trying to play in those back 7, as we discussed on the last AM show that we had. They need to show up and play.
Yeah.
You know, so let's backtrack a little bit and talk about that Dallas game. I know people don't want to talk about that, but I hate to come down to the high point and go down to the lowest point, but this needs to be talked about. 31-16, the special teams for the Washington Redskins against Dallas, they were not there, but the special teams for Dallas were there, running it back twice.
Yeah, ran it back twice, and the special teams for the Chicago Bears was there because they ran one back today too.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest weakness that they have to go along with that secondary. Reed Dowdy, you mentioned, I think he's probably the most consistent player. He's almost like the caretaker back there. He seems to be where he's supposed to be all the time. But the rest of them, man, they've got a lot of work to do. I think Peyton Manning's going to just, I don't know, if McNown put up 41, what should Manning put up? realistically.
Oh, you want to wager any bets around this table? I don't know, but hopefully it won't be that much of a high-scoring affair. And if it is, I hope that the Redskins are able to match them point by point. So this brings about a bigger issue with the Washington Redskins defensively. They have got to be in sync, because if they don't, then they're basically going to get smashed.
Yeah, they will. I mean, defensively, Kevin, Jesse, Vincent, Ryan Kerrigan, Reed Doughty, Brian Arakpo. After that, the other 8, I don't know where they are sometimes. Sometimes the line plays well. Barry Cofield had a good game today, but he doesn't have a consistent good games, in and out every week. But
That's right.
after those 3 players, I don't know about the other 8.
And Vincent, this game would be a litmus test actually for the Washington Redskins to really improve their lot in life, because a good game and a win will potentially up their confidence exponentially.
It certainly will be a big test, and it could set the tone, should they win, for the second half of the season. Getting back to that Dallas game, another point I wanted to make was they had 104 yards in penalties. You have to play with discipline against a good team like the Denver Broncos.
That's right. I mean, that's a key element. I mean, if you don't play with any discipline, how can you expect to lose a team? Now, they actually probably were a little bit even matched against the Chicago Bears. No disrespect to Jay Cutler.
Yeah, they probably were on some level, and Chicago Bears had some injuries coming into this game with some key players. Lance Briggs was hurt; he got hurt early, so those are big, 2 big losses that the Bears had. Because I think if they were in there, we might have seen a little bit of a different result. Maybe still a Skins win, but a different result. In
Go
the score.
Washington Redskins, not to cut you off. Hopefully they'll be able to do it against the Denver Broncos at Mile High Stadium. Let's hope that they're able to do that. All right, so we've reached the end of the road. I mean, 30 minutes just goes
Feels
by.
like
Just
that.
like
Yeah,
that.
doesn't it?
And here, Jesse did a wonderful job.
She did.
I give you an A+.
It's
Thank
a
you
pleasure
very much.
having you
It's a
here,
pleasure
Jesse.
having
Good
you.
job.
Oh, you
And
guys are great.
You're going to come along the next show too, and you're
Yep.
going to be in our podcast. And Jesse's going to be an integral part here of the nation's capital sports show, where it's most definitely on. But where would we be? Where would we be without our ensemble of cast of characters behind the studio, behind the cameras, in the control room?
That's right.
Afshin, let's talk about them.
Well, we wouldn't be
Talk good about
here.
'em.
Talk good about him. The captain of the ship, Devin Gallagher,
That's
Charles
right.
Smith, Steve Cordell, Ken Briley. Our camera operators today, Jackie Barris, Misty Sweet. Excellent job as usual, and I think I speak for all of us. I think we love being here, and it's fun.
Oh, it's fun.
It's fun to be here and talk about sports. But we enjoy talking about the best and the most.
That's right, and I'm glad that you suckered me. I mean, you got me to do this show, because I came running scared when Devin originally a year and a half ago set me down and says, "Hey, how would you like to do a show?" And I was like, "Huh? I've never done TV before." But who would ever thunk it? But before I get out of here, actually mention real quick who's going to be in the World Series.
Oh, the Detroit Tigers. Oops, I let that one slip out. No, the Boston Red Sox and the St. Louis Cardinals. These are teams that have won 4 or 5 World Series over the last 10 years.
All right, I got St. Louis. Who do you have?
Yeah, I got the Cardinals.
Who do you have?
America's team, the Cardinals.
All right, all right. Oh, you just thought of that.
Yeah,
Who do you
St.
have?
Louis.
All right, St. Louis. Okay.
Four
All
for.
right, that's right.
All right.
And I wanted to wish my sisters a happy birthday. 7 years apart, birthday on the same day. That's right. I mean, whoever would thunk it.
Wow.
Janice Jeter Goggins and Belinda Russ. Happy birthday to you guys, and also to my brother-in-law, Reginald Russ.
That's a lot of birthdays.
Yeah, a lot. I mean, October,
Libra.
Yeah.
October and August,
Big
they
time.
say that they are the most birthdays, and I'm quite sure you want to wish your daughter a happy birthday too,
Yes,
right?
Arislana Deshapai. She's 12 years old.
All right.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday
to
to
her.
her.
Happy birthday to Kevin's sisters.
That's right. Thank you
Yeah.
very
Yep,
much.
she-
All right.
she's
All right, and
just-
happy
Yes.
birthday to everyone else
Yes.
out there who's celebrating a birthday.
Yes.
All right,
Libras.
for Afshin Banab, Vincent Charles, Jessica Pye, I'm Kevin Jeter. We thank you for listening to this episode of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Go out and have yourself a great sporting day, as well as a great sporting week, and we'll catch you on the next edition of the Nation's Capital Sports Show, where it's most definitely on. Take care.